Great. Okay, I think I'm told by Olivier, my teammate, that we are indeed live. So I think I'll get started. My colleagues from the Government of Canada may join me later. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the United Nations Biodiversity Conference in Montreal, Canada, COP15, MOP4, and MOP10, if you get the acronyms for all three of the different bodies. My apologies, everybody, for the delay. First of all, today there was an event going on in the Communication, Education, Public Awareness Fair that I had to deliver some remarks on, and that explains why I'm delayed. I'll talk a little bit about that event going on right now. So here we are. We are the 10th of December, and I must confess, I'm trying to remember what day of the week it is. It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday. You lose track of the days when you go from the working group to the COP, et cetera, like that. So Saturday. So let me provide a bit of an update of the things that took place yesterday, Friday, at the conference, and I look forward to things that'll be taking place on the Saturday. So I'll talk about, first of all, actually the first thing I'll say is I would like to remind everybody that today at 3 p.m. will be a stock-taking plenary. So 3 p.m., all the countries will convene in the stock-taking plenary to review the state of progress as we move forward. Updates on Working Group 1 from the 9th of December. The Working Group 1 met yesterday from 10 a.m. to 1:20 p.m. They received reports on progress on their variety of different contact groups. So first of all, they heard back from the co-chairs of the Post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework Working Group, and that's Francis Ogwal of Uganda and Basil Van Havre. They heard back on the agenda item on the monitoring framework, and that was reported by Hezekiel Benitez, who is the substitute chair. They also heard back from the contact group on digital sequence information by Letitia Chitwamulomoni. A very long name, sorry, Letitia Chitwamulomoni of South Africa. They also then heard back on resource mobilization from Mr. Shonisani Munzedi of South Africa. And they heard on capacity building by Mr. Hayo Hastra of the Netherlands. And then finally, also on monitoring, review, and reporting by Andrew Stott of the United Kingdom. The contact group made great progress on CRPs. Let me just remind you that CRPs stands for Conference Room Papers. And these are papers that are close to a state of adoption, maybe with some minor issues to be discussed. There were 5 CRPs that they adopted. They adopted CRP number 3 on the agenda item 10A, and that was a new program of work and institutional arrangements on Article 8J and other provisions relating to Indigenous peoples and local communities. They adopted a CRP on the in-depth dialogue on thematic areas and cross-cutting issues. They adopted a CRP on recommendations coming from the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous issues. They adopted a CRP on item 8A, which was looking at the scientific and technical evidence base for the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. And they adopted a CRP on the review of progress in the implementation of the Convention and the Strategic Plan for Biodiversity. These CRPs that are adopted, you can find them on the website as L documents now. So this looks like we've got L, the thematic areas is L6, the permanent form and Indigenous issues is L7, the scientific and evidence base is L3, and then the review of progress is L4. So looking at those, you'll see that they're ready for adoption. They didn't look at the gender plan of action item, that was not considered. They had Friends of the Chair and contact groups yesterday. The Friends of the Chair met on capacity building. That met first in the afternoon and again in the evening. For that. Then they also had a contact group on agenda item 40 on mechanisms for planning, reporting, and review. So the contact group on the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, let me give you a few details from that. So there were a lot of sessions. They held a session yesterday from 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Get ready for the number. During that session, they lifted 65 brackets. So I feel we almost need to have like a chalkboard where we can just, tick off how many brackets, but they listed there. And then in the evening session from 7:30 to 11:45, they added 2 brackets. So as we'll have to have a tally here. It's like this one's going down, this one comes back up. Let's see here. In the first session, they looked at reports back from a couple of Friends of Chair groups and one informal consultation. And that's when I think they got Section B bis. So Section B bis, that's when 29 of the brackets were removed. Then from another Friends of Chair group that looked on Section D, which is the theory of change for that. If you'll see, it's a diagram that looks at the theory of change. They came up with a much succinct alternative text, and they lifted 12 brackets from that area as well. And then there was an informal consultation led by New Zealand, looked at goal A, and they were able to lift 23 brackets there. And they're going to be looking also now at the level of ambition is there. And then goal B under the framework only had one bracket listed as well. So that was where they made progress in the afternoon. In the evening, they got back reports from a couple of informal group consultations on paragraph 23 of the text, and also some of the aspects from the COP decision before that enabled this. Then they looked at targets 1, 2, and 3. Targets 1, 2, and 3 deal with sort of the status of biodiversity. A Friends of Chair was established to look at target 1, be led by Switzerland, and so they have to lift as many brackets as possible. They didn't make progress. They, on target 2, they had interventions from 24 parties, and the question was whether they should be looking at degraded areas in terms of, this is the restoration matter. Should they be looking at relative or absolute number for the area of degraded land? And should they look at degraded ecosystems versus or the area of systems? This one, I guess, is where they had 8 brackets added. So in fact, I think it means this balance of 2 that was in the areas that they'd actually added 8 and then lifted 6 later on. So it's obvious that there's some progress being made here, but obviously they'll have to have a lot more moving forward. The other thing I'll report on is that we did have a Friends of the Chair on agenda item 11 on digital sequence information. The Friends of the Co-Chairs group was facilitated by William Lockhart of the United Kingdom and Great Britain, and Fatso Kalemba of Malawi, and they met at night from 7:40 to 11:30 p.m. And the idea is to look at finalizing the draft decision on DSI in this case. The sense is in this group, it was overall positive and constructed. Parties were engaging in an open-minded discussion and open-minded questioning. The group spent time looking at some of the operational paragraphs from the open-ended working group as well. So they're going to take a look at different options there. They also wanted to look at options to set up a global solution from DSI. There's a debate of whether or not the CBD has the mandate to consider benefit sharing from DSI as well. So part of it, as I said the other day, is there's this question of definitions. Is it ready to move forward, or is it so diffuse that they're not ready to move forward on it as well? So they're going to be meeting again, I think today. Working Group 1 today it looks like to me, only have contact groups. According to my notes here, there's a contact group on capacity building meeting at 10 a.m. for this working group. And there's also another contact group meeting at 10 as well. In the afternoon, yes, the stock taping plenary. Working Group 1 will have contact groups in the evening. As per usual, the group on the Global Biodiversity Framework will meet, and then one on resource mobilization. Working Group 2, I think their account and notes I have from them are more succinct. They held their session in the morning yesterday from 10 till 1 p.m. Ms. Helena Jeffrey Brown of Antigua and Barbuda led, and she was looking for facilitators of contact groups and a status report. So they got a status report on the contact group on synthetic biology. So we talked about synthetic biology. These are the variety of techniques that can be used to intervene in genetic resources and actually create life. So the contact group had met the previous day on the 8th of December. They reflected on a variety of sections, Section A on this one, and also the Section B on the question of horizon scanning. The notion of horizon scanning is looking forward about what are different items that will be coming forward and need to be considered in terms of risk assessment. The group agreed on the establishment of an ad hoc technical expert group, that'll be AHTEG and ATEG, to support the horizon scanning, but they do need to work on the terms of reference for this group. What will this group actually look at? Just letting you know, under the convention process, ad hoc technical expert groups are important mechanisms to bring scientific information into the convention process. So that's most of what that group's looking at. They also had a contact group on COP item 24 on agriculture. This is another one that had a lot of brackets. The question of agriculture relates to agroecology, question of fertilizers as well. They're working on that. A vast majority of the brackets were released, but there's only one more. So in fact, it's chances that will be ready as well. There's also a contact group on marine issues. And the marine issues are really about the questions of these so-called EBSAs, EBSAs, areas of ecologically and biologically significant area. There are a lot of unresolved and divergent views on the question of deep seabed mining. And so there'll be a formal Friends of the Chair to resolve these issues related to deep seabed mining as well. And then the last one contact group is the contact group on climate change from there, looked at it. They discussed some of the 9 paragraphs in brackets and were able to remove a few. They'll need more work on that. The working group did also deal with a number of CRPs. So they looked at a conference room paper on sustainable wildlife management, and they'll make an L document. They looked at monitoring and reporting under the Cartagena Protocol. They looked at assessment and review under the Cartagena Protocol. They looked at compliance under the Cartagena Protocol. They looked at socioeconomic considerations under the Cartagena Protocol. They looked at the question of this supplementary protocol and on liability and redress, and then the biosafety clearinghouse as well, and then risk assessment. In all of these cases, an L document will be prepared, which means for some of these agenda items, we're moving forward and they may be able to clear these off, clearing more time for other important activities moving forward. The working group 2 is going to meet again. Let's see here. Yeah, no, they won't be meeting again today. My sense is that because we got plenary in the afternoon, we'll have to move forward on that. Other events today, I'm getting behind here. Other events today, we have the Global Biodiversity Communications Forum organized in the SEPA Fair, and that's room 220B, I believe, over there. I was there. The Global Biodiversity Communications Forum is organized by We, the Secretariat, and WWF, and today they're looking at the question of behavior change. How can communications activities facilitate behavior change, and then also look at this methodology? An important aspect, because as you know, many of the items for work under the Global Biodiversity Framework look at behavior change. I would invite you to go over there. It's a question of psychology, changing comportement, as we'd say in French. It's an interesting day of activities. I'll remind you that Place Quebec is in full swing again today. We've got in the auditorium, we'll be looking at events that look at both business and finance for the entire day, and then women's activities in the evening. And in fact, they're going to be looking at the Gender Day in the evening. They'll be looking at weaving human rights and gender equality in the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. In the hub space, and these are all these different sort of kiosks that are located outside the main area, there'll be presentations throughout the day from business groups, from Indigenous peoples and local communities, from youth, etc. I would encourage you to look at it. I think there are a lot of organizations relating to finance and business, and in some ways, I encourage you to make sure you do that because it's one of the new areas that we're looking at as well. And then, of course, because we're looking at Gender Day activities, please make sure that you look at the discussions with the kiosk relating to women. Off-site, I want to remind you that the Indigenous village is still at the Green Zone at COP15. That's along the Old Port. A lot of work that are going over there as well. So I encourage that. And I also want to let you know that Collectif COP15 is doing a series of events outside. And it's my understanding, too, that today's the day that they'll be organizing a big march as well. So we'll be looking at that. It's really cold today. So if you decide to join the march and want to follow, make sure you bundle up. Hope they have a good thing on the go. For press conferences today, we don't have very many. I guess some people are taking a bit of a break for the day. At 11 a.m. this morning, we'll have WWF looking at the state of play. So that'll be at 11 a.m. this morning. At 11:30, the city's unit from the economy division of UNEP will talk about a mayor's statement on financing for nature for sustainable cities. So that'll be on the go as well. And then at 12:30, the mayor of Barranquilla will be talking a new project that it's launching with ICLE and WRI. And then the final one I have for the day is 2 p.m. Libotolo Dikko Hervé and Mogombe Monga Jonas will be talking about attacks on environmental activists in RDC. They're going to take a look at what's going on there. So those are the press conferences we have on the go. That's what I have for you. I'll turn over to Marc-André, and he'll let you know what Canada's got to talk about today. Marc-André, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. Thank you once again for being with us today on site and online. As per usual, please note that I will be starting with French, this speech, and ending with English at the end, so using both of Canada's official languages here. Bonjour à tous, au nom du gouvernement du Canada.
Good afternoon, good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to share with you, with all our guests today, online and in the auditorium, all the main activities for today. Donc, I would like to emphasize the main events for today. First of all,
at 10 o'clock this morning, so soon, Minister Guilbeault will be participating in an announcement on the natural areas protection. So this will be in the public action area. For those who have not been yet, there will be a press briefing following this event. Then at 13:45, Minister Guilbeault will be participating in an activity which includes financial stakeholders and how financing is aligned with positive results for nature. This will be taking place in Place Québec here in the Palais de Congrès. We'll have Jeremy Apple, Minister Guilbeault, Elizabeth Morema, the Executive Director, who you already know, and Vian Sharif from Nature Alpha. Then, to finish Saturday, to end Saturday, we have a reception here at the Palais de Congrès. It's from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. And we expect the minister to take the floor. Canada Pavilion, we have several conferences on site. We have innovation in financing and mobilization of resources. Just an idea of what's going on. 9:30, an event on conservation project by Indigenous people. At 11:30, we have an event till 1 p.m. on Inuit participation in conservation. So this is a very interesting event. From 2 to 3, we have an event on research carried out by Inuit, and this will finish at 3:30. As from 5 to 6, we have inclusive richness as sustainability, and then from 6:30 till 8 p.m. we have an event on governance and conservation. So as you can see, it's quite a diverse program, and all the program for this day and the next days can be found on the website, which you've been consulting these past few days. David already spoke about this, but we have the different activities being carried out today and tomorrow within the village of Indigenous people. This will give the possibility to Indigenous participants this Indigenous space. If you have the opportunity to be there, there are a lot of cultural programs, artistic discussions, and also different activities. The whole program is also available on the website. I end by saying that the Canada government is publishing all this information. You can also find this on canada.ca every evening. If you have any requests for interviews, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me or my team. You can contact us either here on site or on media@sc.gc.ca. Thank you very much.
Government of Canada. I'm happy to share with media representatives the main activities involving the Government of Canada for today. First off, this morning at 10 a.m., so pretty close from here, Minister Guilbeault will participate in an announcement by the Communauté métropolitaine de Montréal on the protection of natural environments, along with the Mayor of Montréal, Valérie Plante. This announcement will take place in the Public Action Zone, which is at the Grand Palais of the Port de Montréal. It will be followed by a press release from the Communauté métropolitaine de Montréal after the announcement. At 1:45 p.m. today, Minister Guilbeault will participate in the launch of a new nature finance alignment tool designed to help financial actors identify, measure, and disclose how their financial flows are aligned with positive outcomes for nature. This event will be taking place at Place Québec, so it's here in the Palais des Congrès, pretty close actually from the room we're at right now. The announcement will include various actors such as Jeremy Appel, Director of Nature Finance, Minister Guilbeault, Elizabeth Marema, Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity, and Vian Sheriff, CEO of Nature Alpha. To end this day, Minister Guilbeault will speak at Canada's opening reception at COP15 this evening. It's happening here at the Palais des Congrès on the first floor. The event is starting at 7:30 p.m., ending at 10, and Minister Guilbeault will speak at that event. Just a quick note on the Canada Pavilion programming for today. So we have 5 events going. At 9:30, we have approaching funding for Indigenous-led conservation projects in the Stein-Nahalach study area. At 11:30, we have governance in the conservation and protection of Inuit Nunat. And I forgot to mention, sorry, that the theme for today at the Canada Pavilion is innovating funding and resource mobilization, which is pretty current with some of the programming we have today across the COP15. Coming back to the programming, at 2 p.m., we have an Inuit-led research to understand and address biodiversity loss event at the Canada Pavilion. At 5 p.m., we have inclusive wealth as a measure of sustainability and equity. And at 6:30 p.m. to end the day until 8, we have governance and conservation in the EU-ICHI Quebec-Canada community. And I want to remind everyone that the full programming for every day until the end of the COP is available for the Canada Pavilion on canada.ca. Quick note on the Indigenous Village. David has briefly talked about it as well. For a second day, it started yesterday. The Indigenous Leadership Initiatives is presenting the Indigenous Village, which is situated in the Public Action Zone at COP15. Today and tomorrow, the village will showcase the work of Indigenous people in the region, in Canada and around the world, and provide Indigenous-focused gathering space for Indigenous participants at COP15. Programming will include various things such as cultural exhibits, Aboriginal artistic expressions, and traditional cooking demonstrations that will take place near the structures. The full programming for this day and tomorrow, which is the last day of the village, is available at illinationhood.ca. I would also like to remind you that the Government of Canada is issuing daily highlights for media representatives during COP15. You might already receive them by email if you are accredited, but otherwise the daily highlights are also published on canada.ca every night, so you can also see them there. And finally, if you have requests or for information or for interviews, you can always feel free to contact our team here at the International Media Center or by email at media@ec.gc.ca. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Marc-André. I'll turn to a couple of questions online. We've got a question from Diwakar Piakurel. So Diwakar asks, are there any discussions in past and upcoming main and side events about the human-wildlife conflict? So Diwakar, I did a just quick search on the side events page. And just letting everybody know, the side events page is quite simple. You go to our website. It's cbd.int/side-events. So SIDE-events. And that shows you all the events. And I just searched on the term conflict, and there actually are 10 events that I think make sense. And so it looks at activities relating in UNESCO sites, financing, etc. So Diwakar, I would invite you to go to that webpage and take a look. And these are side events that'll be taking place over the upcoming days in the next week. So you'll take a look at that. And certainly human-wildlife conflict issues are pervasive everywhere. I mean, I think people talk mostly about, say, human-wildlife context in the context of elephants or tigers, but I can certainly say even, the context of here in Canada, there are examples of human-wildlife conflict. For example, coyotes that come into urban spaces in Canadian cities as well. So take a look at those events, but go to the side events page and look at it. I also have a question from Sun Li Wei. She's Li Wei from Malaysian National News Agency, and she's here as part of the Earth Journalism Network Fellowship. And she says, any increased number of countries who support the 30 by 30 target? So Sun Li Wei, I don't know if I've got any increased number of countries, but I think we should expect that in the days to come, we'll have a number of events and announcements that will make very concrete people's commitments towards that question of protected areas moving forward. So I think after this weekend and the days to come, you'll see a number of commitment activities taking place. So take a look for the side events and the announcements coming up on that. I don't have any questions on the Interactio platform. Are there any questions here in the room? I have a question up front.
Merci.
Thank you.
From CDTN America, David, I think it was Thursday, you mentioned that you were once involved in biodiverse beer brewing. And I want to ask you at this stage of these negotiations, where would you describe the glass right now, and to what extent are these issues governing Indigenous community rights and so on dominating the problematic areas? If you could expand on that, please.
I don't know if I've got the specifics of that, but there's two things you seem to ask, is where we're moving in terms of the progress. I mean, I think, first of all, on the global biodiversity framework issue, I think we are seeing definitely progress, certainly yesterday, where I think the early days, it wasn't very clear. So we're advancing overall. I think that the areas of the text where we specifically look at Indigenous peoples and local communities, you know that their role in this question of protected areas is very important. That is still under discussion as part of the brackets in that text. But we do also have one of our targets that relates to knowledge and that incorporates traditional knowledge of Indigenous local communities. And that's one of the text areas that's not bracketed, in fact, that target. So there's a lot of support for identifying and moving forward on that. So that's the area. And also, you know, the working group I reported today made a lot of progress in a lot of these overall agenda items that relate to Indigenous people and local communities and traditional knowledge, and this question of the permanent form of Indigenous issues and their direction to us. And so there is progress being made in that direction. We'll know at the end of the COP how that advances. And I think probably the crucial question is if we wish to deal with the expansion of protected areas, we're going to need to look at other effective area-based conservation measures that do incorporate Indigenous peoples and local communities. And they're moving forward on it, but there's still a variety of opinions moving that are still some divisions. I expect we'll only know how those are going to be resolved in the days to come.
Et si je peux, une perspective canadienne?
And a Canadian perspective on the same subject, please.
En fait, c'est difficile.
Thank you for the question. So it's difficult for me to comment on behalf of the Canadian government on the negotiations, but if you would like, we can discuss this and I can put you in contact with the right person to have the right information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions in the room? Okay, I'm actually impressed. I think we've got about a dozen people in the room here for Saturday morning. That's great. That's really good. I'm very impressed. Thank you. You're the diehard people. So we'll get ready to go very soon. So just noting that, so tomorrow will be Sunday, and while there will be no negotiations going on, tomorrow we'll have a lot of activities. So the Cities and Subnational Government Summit begins tomorrow. Very, very important. We'll also have the Nature and Culture Summit beginning as well. So that'll be super keen. At the risk of being slightly unpredictable, I may do a briefing later today on some of these items. We'll see. But otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9:15 if you're ready to get up on a Sunday and not go for brunch. And we can talk about those activities. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great Saturday here at COP, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.